Okay, so welcome to Atlantic Fleet, my latest gaming addiction. The kind of game where I sit down to play for an hour, I tell myself, and then, 3 hours later, I wonder what happened. What is it? Well, it's released in December. As you can tell, it's a 3D World War II naval sim. Well, sim is perhaps too strong a word. It's a World War II naval combat game with strong simulation elements. If you're looking for ballistic accuracy for all the different weapon systems from all the different nations involved in the conflict, this is not it. It is, however, a lot of fun to play. This company, Killerfish Games, released Pacific Fleet some time ago. I'm not exactly sure when. I've never played it. And this is like I said, their latest release in December. One of the key differences between Atlantic Fleet and Pacific Fleet is this Battle of the Atlantic option here. Pacific Fleet did not have that. They had a campaign, but the campaign is, Mission 1, fight a freighter. And Mission 2, fight 2 freighters. Mission 3, fight a destroyer and a freighter. And the mechanics are that you have a certain amount of renown with which you purchase ships, and you build up your fleet that way. The more ships that you sink, you gain renown, and use that renown to buy more ships. If you lose any in one scenario, it will be removed from your fleet, and you won't have it available for any use unless you purchase another ship of the same type. Training missions, pretty self-explanatory. Single battle, all the standard stuff you would kind of expect of an Atlantic Ocean naval game. A lot of these I'm not really familiar with. I like World War II naval combat, but I'm not a big, that's not my thing, if you know what I mean. Just sinking the Bismarck, the Denmark Strait. They also had the Battle of the River Plate. Sinking of the Barham. They have Cormoran versus Sydney, which is technically Australia versus Germany, but they have the ships. Both of those ships are in the game, so why not? And then the regular campaign. I won't go into it now, but like I said, it's a predefined series of progressively more difficult encounters. But the one that I pretty much only ever play is Battle of the Atlantic. I think I'll start a new campaign. I have an ongoing campaign, and I'm doing pretty good in it now that I've got used to the rules of the game. But for demonstration purposes, we'll start a new campaign, and we're going to leave it on the default setup. And essentially, this is the map. I have it set on display fleets. If you click on an area, it shows you what ships are in that particular zone. Here you have the battle cruiser Renown, the heavy cruiser Berwick, and the Vimy destroyer. Sheffield and the Vampire, and of course submarines are also SS Triton are depicted there as well. So the basic mechanics are, let's for example say I want to move the Vega and the Velux. Click the area, select them, and then they can move into any adjacent C-hex. Another thing you can do is show the areas of each of the naval zones, which areas have port facilities in them. That's important. They do track ammunition usage, which for most shells is not a big deal, but kind of gets important for torpedoes. And the way I use torpedoes, it's very important for me. They also have, they don't have any at the moment, but they have, it will show you convoys, and which areas have convoys in them, and whether they have light or heavy convoy activity, and weather, of course, and fleets. It is week. Each turn is half a week, So we're starting in September of 1939, and the game is 500 turns long. How do you win the game? Well, the objective of the German, the Kriegsmarine, is to sink enemy shipping, specifically merchant shipping. That is tracked by this blue bar up here. They have to, the more shipping they sink, the more of these pips will turn red. I'm not sure at what point Germany is declared to have won the Battle of the Atlantic. And the British are trying to prevent that. Now, the way you purchase new vessels is through a renown system. I'll actually might as well show you that right now. Let's go to Halifax, and we'll go to the port. I don't have any ships in port. Weather, date, and we'll go to the shipyard. And they have pretty much all the classes you'd imagine they would have. The Queen Elizabeth class, Revenge class, the Nelson, King George V, North Carolina. I find this an odd addition, but hey, 16-inch naval rifles, can't argue with that. Renowned battlecruiser, Admiral class battlecruiser, or the Hood. Various, and then of course you'll see that some ships are not available immediately at the beginning of the game. Now, do they not have? Yeah, okay, interesting. In the regular campaign, you actually have the option to purchase battleships that were never actually produced during the war. So, Britain had a Lion class battleship. I'd never heard of it before. Like I said, I'm not that much into the naval end of things in World War II. That had 3 quad turrets, 14 inches. I don't know what the Americans are not really. This is the only American ship you'll find in the game for Atlantic Fleet. The Hood, aircraft carriers are quite important. I've played around with them a little bit. New York, Leander, Newcastle, Dido, Fiji, Vendetta, and then you get all the way down to your destroyers. Yes, of which the JKN class is probably my favorite, mostly because they carry 10 torpedoes and have 3 twin 4.7-inch mounts. Lefori is also nice, but they only have 6 torpedo tubes. You'll see when if we get into a fight with submarines, and we probably will, you'll see why I like torpedoes so much. Queenborough, Flower class corvette, Action class corvette, Castle, and the only British submarine in the game, the Triton. And back to the QE. So I have 10,000 renown, and this is expensive, 6,400. I think it might be the most expensive destroyer in the game. But you're going to need a lot of destroyers. So I've moved that fleet up here. We have the Renown, the Berwick, and the Vimy here. I'm going to leave them there. Exeter, Achilles, Ajax, Valentine, and let's leave them where they are. Now, one of the oddities of this sort of campaign map is down here we have the Warspite and the Thetis and whatnot, and they can't do anything down here. There's no convoys that come in there. All they can really do is sit there and be the targets for German naval power. So, and I'll leave them all in one large fleet at the moment. And I think that's it. And when you're done, click next. Then they have events that happen that you have that are not resolved in a tactical way. So here we are. The Exeter struck a mine. She took medium damage, so we will need to get her I think she was here. Yeah, the Exeter will have to go into port for repairs. So go to the, if you have repair facilities, select the ship and repair. And that's how many turns she'll be out. So 9 half weeks, so 4.5 weeks. And we'll continue to move our Navy out of here. Let's see, are there any convoys? There are. So this is where, for now, I want to keep my fleets active. Now I'm always very concerned about, I want destroyers in my fleets, but when you have a big ship like the Renown, the way submarines spring their attacks, they tend to eat a torpedo or 2 or 3. Although I've learned tactics to reduce that to some degree. United Kingdom, U-40 is attacked by one of my aircraft and damaged. That was over here. And having ships in the zone doesn't necessarily mean you're going to have combat if there's enemies in the area, especially with submarines. It seems to be, the more ships you have, the more likely it is. That's great. Let me sorry, I'm a little sidetracked by my recording software. So they're there. I'm going to take 2 of my destroyers out here, and I'll take the rest into the South Atlantic. Next. Nothing happened. Yes, and renown and how you earn renown. You earn renown by sinking enemy shipping. And by enemy shipping, we mean enemy naval tonnage. The merchant tonnage is there as an indicator of game progress. The more merchant shipping the Germans sink, the closer to victory they are, but it does not give them more points to buy more ships with. Which is probably good, because then they sink so much tonnage that if they got all that tonnage in renown, they would be popping out Bismarcks and Tirpitzes like crazy. I'm not sure about how strict the AI is to purchasing their ships. I have specified realistic ships or historical ships only, and that ships once sunk cannot come back. So if I sink the Bismarck, there will not be another Bismarck. Now, does that mean there won't be another Bismarck class? We know there was a Tirpitz. I don't know if there were any plans in the books for any more of that class after the Tirpitz. I know that they had one hull that they were going to turn into an aircraft carrier that saw, I think it came pretty close to completion, but never actually sailed. It was too late in the war by that point. I don't know if there are any more ships after that, so it might be that we see more of that class show up. Not much happening here. Of course, I say that, and then I will have something nasty happen, like I'll lose the war spit or something. Ooh, no, I want, this, there we are. Move here. And you get kind of weird things happening too, like I had a merchant fleet sail out of Halifax, and I had a King George V battleship with it, and they ran into a single German destroyer off of Halifax. I found that kind of funny, but Game mechanics. What are you gonna do? Oh yeah, let's move the submarines up. And there is air power, and we will most likely be seeing. Here we are, Allied merchants shipping sunk. Where was that? West Labrador Sea. Valorous. Ooh, heavy damage by German aircraft or Axis aircraft. So there we are. So I will take my 2 destroyers, move them up here, move the Jervis over to cover the warspit. Now, who got damaged? And the Valorous. So we will repair the Valorous. Now, he will most likely move from there. So let's... I don't think he'll move north, but you never know. And he disappears. So he might be in one of these areas. I don't know. We'll just hang around for a bit. Scharnhorst is damaged by Allied aircraft. Oh, and she's right there. Okay, well. Yeah, and the worst bit is way over here. Let's see what that... And nothing happened. Let's try to pin her down. No idea where she might be now. Up here. Well, she wouldn't be in home waters, would she? I don't think she would. I can't go there anyway. Yeah. Now there we are. 1 enemy submarine against 2 light, 1 heavy cruiser, and a destroyer. This could be pretty nasty, actually, because the only ships that can see and prosecute submarines are destroyers. Well, and escorts. But I would like to try... Oh, and they have air power too. Wonderful. That looks pretty good. And not only did they hit, but they got a good hit on her. Now that big explosion doesn't necessarily mean that she's going to sink, but it does mean that there's a good amount of damage done. So, first thing I want to do is see if we know where the submarine is. Okay, he's off to our starboard. So, this is the Exeter. We will go port 30. I want to turn away from the submarine, flank, and move. So, the basic mechanic is you have a move action. One thing that's kind of funny when you're doing a move action is if you want to use ship smoke, you have to do it in the movement phase, not in the action phase. Everything else happens in the action phase. So with this heavy cruiser, I can fire 8-inch AP shell, 8-inch HE shell. I can launch torpedoes, which actually might be a pretty good idea, or do nothing. They don't have the secondary armament on this particular cruiser listed, so I will fire torpedoes. Why am I firing torpedoes? Well, when I first started playing this game, I had horrendous luck. I lost destroyers willy-nilly because submarines are quite powerful. Torpedoes do a reasonable amount of damage. The torpedoes are not overpowered. They're powerful, but not overpowered. Kind of historic that way. But typical submarine behavior is to stay on at periscope depth and keep firing torpedoes. So you'll see 4 torpedoes, come into your formation. You'll chase down the submarine, and by the time your destroyer gets close enough to use depth charges, he's already reloaded 1 or 2 tubes, and he puts a fish in you, and you sink. That happened so many times. So I developed some tactics for dealing with the submarines, and the most effective weapon against them is the torpedo. So these are all going to be, my 3 cruisers are all going to be turning away, so I can fire a spread here and not worry about it. So we'll fire 1 straight down that bearing, and I will just pop 1 torpedo off other side, because I have no idea where he's going to go. There we go, our 3 little torpedoes. And we will do the same, flank speed, full port rudder. Now, and his torpedoes will be in range, so 1, I imagine that he will want to get closer to us. And in case he turns away. And same again. Yes, I'm being very prolific with my use of torpedoes. But, so now, my destroyer, flank. And I'm not going to have him. He's still quite far away, so I'm not going to use my torpedoes yet. I can actually fire at him with my cannon when he's at periscope depth. No guarantees that will actually do anything. I usually miss, but I have hit submarines at periscope depth and done light damage to them, which is generally enough to scare them off. But for now, I'm not doing anything. They also have the Hedgehog anti-submarine mortar, but this is too early in the war for them, so they're not installed on any of my ships. So we're done. There's a submarine getting closer, and he fires a spread of torpedoes himself. I imagine that yeah. So there are his torpedoes on the way in. You can't see them on the surface, but they're there. And their spread is pretty good for hitting my Exeter. So if this were to play out, I would eat a torpedo, more or less. But since all enemy combatants have been killed, I go done, end of scenario. Those torpedoes cease to exist. So that's kind of one of the idiosyncrasies of the game. Oh, lovely. So the Gneisenau is off the shore of Newfoundland. Interesting. And all I have up there are 2 destroyers. Okay, well. And he's using secondaries on me. Okay. So, tactics in the game, and I do call it a game. I'm not going to call it a simulation. It's a nice difference, I guess, but like I said, I have a lot of fun playing this game, but it is in no way a simulation, and we'll show that to you in one way right now. So I'm going to turn on my smoke, set my speed to flank, I don't want to turn that. I want to approach the Gneisenau, but I don't want to. I don't want to go too far to starboard. So you may have noticed that when I targeted somebody, the targeting information appeared in the top right corner. And targeting information is the name of your target, speed that they're traveling at, the angle that your main battery or whatever gun you have selected will have to elevate in order to have their salvo land on target. That's basically normally how things work. If you turn your smoke on, you do not get that. The enemy will not get that targeting information. So despite the fact that the wind is blowing my smoke off down this way, if the Gneisenau targets one of my ships, he will not get a solution on them. Now, that doesn't mean he can't hit. It just makes him hitting me more difficult. And of course I want to get as close as I can and put torpedoes in them. That's the only chance I have of winning this engagement. If he were to use his main cannon, all he has to do is hit one of those destroyers once or twice with an 11-inch gun, and that'll be the end of it. I hope these sound effects aren't too loud. I can barely hear my own voice when they're shooting. Now, one thing I could do is I could try to run away. But I've tried that a number of times, and it never ever seems to work. Sooner or later, a shell hits me even when I have the smoke on, and then my speed will drop off, and instead of pulling away slightly, he'll start to overtake me slightly, and the old saying, a stern chase is a long chase. Well, it makes for long games where you do nothing but smoke, move, smoke, move, smoke, move, which is boring. And we're playing a game, right? We want to see stuff sink. I'll see what I can do. As you can see, his salvos are all over the place. If I ever get into the point of where I will be shooting a salvo, I will show you how that works. And one shell hit right at the waterline. That could be bad. Oh, I didn't put him on flank. He's not going to shoot torpedoes yet. When you turn smoke on, that's all you can do. That's your action. Essentially, you have, remember D&D, one move action. You can make one move and take one action. That's essentially the same here. You can fire torpedoes or turn your smoke on, or fire your main guns, or fire a star shell. By the way, this game is on Steam if you use that service for a price of like $10. Oh, and they're firing torpedoes. Interesting. At him. So that means I won't go that way anymore. And I know it seems like they're very close at the moment, but I'm not sure how many torpedoes these guys have. Probably 6. But I want to... If I only have 6 torpedoes, I want to make damn sure that they're going to be effective torpedoes. Because in order for me to shoot torpedoes, I'm going to have to turn the smoke off. And if I turn the smoke off, I'm going to be at short range from a battleship, and his return fire is going to wreck me. But if I try to run away, his long range fire is going to wreck me. That looks good. Yeah. 2 hits. Yeah. Okay. Here we go. Torpedo time. Oh, I can't turn. Crap. So, one of his shells must have disabled my steering. So. And, smoke, move. After this battle is played out, I will pause the recording. It's been a half an hour. That should be long enough. Yeah, if I can turn, I can turn. Excellent. So, how do I want to do this? Starboard or port? Starboard, I think. Destroyers can turn really tightly. So, no smoke. Starboard turn. Here we go. Select him as my target. Go down to torpedo. 6 torpedoes. So, here's our targeting information, right? If I were to fire my guns, I want to put the guns on an elevation of 5.5 degrees. If I want to shoot my torpedoes, I want a bearing of 305.8. So, here's my bearing down here. 305.8. So I'll put it on 6. 1 torpedo. 2 torpedoes. 3 torpedoes. And we'll just space them out like that. I've already taken some hits. I can't recall what size armament the Gneisenau had as secondaries, but bigger than 4.7 probably inch. So leave the smoke on for him, and we'll watch my destroyer get sunk. His torpedoes hit the end of the run. Yeah, I'm on fire. Sinking. And torpedoes. And the scenario is done. So, yeah. It's a game. A game with some realistic elements. A game I very much enjoy playing. Because, honestly, taking 2 destroyers up against a battleship, yeah, well, there you go. Oh, 32,000 renown for sinking a battleship. I have 1 ship that's medium damage. And, 1 destroyer against a light cruiser. But I'm going to stop recording here. That's the basics of the game. I'm going to continue to record episodes as I continue to play the game until I get super tired of it. But for now, that gives you an introduction to the game. Hopefully I didn't, hopefully I made some kind of sense. But anyway, stay tuned for the next episode.